Welcome to Burn the Ship. This is the podcast where we connect entrepreneurs with individuals that can help you go all in on your business. We talk to people that have walked the walk, talked the talk, been through all the things that we experience in the small business world, and have joined us today to kind of share some of those skills and experiences with you guys. So hopefully you can apply some of that to your own business. So thank you for being here. First of all, thank you for being a guest, sharing some time with me, sharing some time with the audience is very kind and generous of you. And it means a lot to me and my organization and our podcast and our ability to put out content. It's kind of impossible without the guest. So thank you very much. First of all, it's very kind of you. But why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. So my name is Steve Weigler. I'm based in Denver, Colorado, and I'm an attorney, but I've had a really interesting career, and I'm not sure I'd recommend it to everyone, but I started as a prosecutor, a criminal prosecutor in Miami of all places, and so I learned I'd say in that really to manage both large quantities of materials and cases, and also just skills on dealing with humanity, because it's really, I mean, besides maybe like a bomb hitting you or something, there's um, criminal can be very intense, and it's a lot of really bad situations. And I learned that really kind of early in my career. Anyway, I knew I didn't want to do that and I had a business acumen. And after working for a Fortune 50 company in their legal department involving technology, it was AT&T. I set out and became an entrepreneur. And I really always, in my whole life, I've always looked for, all right, is there a niche that's underrepresented or where I see that there's kind of a better way to do it. And leaving a large Fortune 50 company, I saw a niche in it was a niche in education, K-12 education. And so it was at the early stage of predictive analytics, where I licensed some um, intellectual property from the University of Wisconsin and was able to kind of figure out an algorithm to crunch data that would be able to predict whether a student would drop out of high school, like around the middle school ages. And then we had curriculum and professional development. So it's kind of a three-pronged approach. Curriculum is more like a traditional publishing company, although we had some online content. And the algorithm, and the interesting part about that was business to government. So it made a few things. Business to government it can be lucrative, but the sales cycles are ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
In the Atlanta area, we had, Fulton County, and to get a purchase order and then to get paid, and sometimes you get the purchase order, you won't get paid, but you're talking a 1 to 2 year um, trend for accounts receivable. And so to survive a startup with such a difficult sales cycle, and really, we it taught me a few things besides that I don't think I'd ever want to go business to government again. But the is really like number one, how to manage your cash flow, and cash is when you have a startup or any kind of business, cash is king. And because the risk is so high, you don't want to put too much of your own capital into um, such a such a risky proposition. And then it really required me to run quite a tight operational business. We're coming into it because I think it's common knowledge that lawyers are lawyers, and um, they're not always the best at running a business. And I'd say because we're super analytical,
Right.
so you could like get stuck in your own spreadsheet on trying to make a decision, whereas running a business goes more from the gut and skating sometimes, really like, hey, yeah, I know that bill's due, and you're going to set that aside in your mind, and you're going to set that aside in your operations, because you need to run the business, and there's so many things going on. So anyway, it really taught me a lot about how to run a tight business and a tight managed operational business. I think some
Yeah.
of my employees might have disagreed, but we grew it to 50 employees, and we came to a point where we almost exited to a very large company. And so I really went through um, the exit failure had nothing to do with the strength of the company, and you learn that things kind of happen. In this case, it was the person that was in charge of business development got in a cab one day, and the cab driver decided to commit suicide and drove into a traffic circle in Boston, flipped the cab, broke the guy's back, and he never went back to the company.
Oh my
So
gosh.
how can you close a deal when your business development person has a broken back and is not coming back?
Oh my gosh.
Like, so, just things like that.
Yeah,
But that's
completely out of your control. Yeah.
out of your control. So you learn things about control. You learn, and these are not skills that I knew as a lawyer. Anyway, had to raise a lot of money. Um, um, had experience with venture capital, had experience with private equity. And so the point is it was the good, the bad, the ugly. I learned a ton and took that experience and really went. Um, then I had a whole bunch of other business ideas. And my wife said, well, Steve, you gotta, you know, can't sit in the basement dreaming about business. And so I went and started my own law firm about um, 10 years ago and grew it to the point within the last 10 years that now I needed other attorneys a lot, like meaning tax and all these things in law um, to support my clients. And so I've just made a big move to a very large law firm. We have an office in Atlanta. It's called Buchalter, and we're almost 700 attorneys. And so it's really been an amazing move because there are specialists in everything. And I'm not that I don't have my own specialties, but I a lot of my clients need kind of me, the person that kind of understands the business, understands the what the needs are, and then are able to find those specialized resources. Sometimes it's a tax issue, sometimes it's a closely held company, et cetera. So in a nutshell, I have a lot of experience both in the operational side of business and uh, tend to act as somewhat of a business coach and help people build boards and do all these things to grow the business. But I also am an attorney and have that kind of specialized legal experience and legal. And I would tell your audience, look, no one, when I had a business, and I'm an attorney, the last person I wanted to call was the attorney. Like I would look at it, that and the dentist, like I would look at like, all right, well, maybe we can change that meeting. Maybe we can do it, like you're looking at it like, what do I have to do today? What are my focus areas? What are initiatives? And you can hire like calendar planners to help you with this. Talking to the attorney's never on that list,
Right.
or unless you're in trouble, right? And that happens. My value proposition, or what I want to emphasize to your audience, is look, I think everyone understands it. No one wants to deal with things that they don't have to. But having a proactive legal strategy plan um, to go along with your business plan, which is like 1/18th of it, is super helpful um, to increase value in your business and avoid talking to an attorney a lot. Meaning, when kind of stuff hits a fan, yeah, your attorney's your best friend. Like you're the person you're calling all the time, and you're so happy you have found them and have a relationship with them till you maybe see the bill. But the point is if you have a strategic business plan that includes some strategic legal planning, it's going to pay off in spades. It just is. And so that's been a real emphasis of my speaking lately, is how you can, whatever stage of the business you are at, what I call it is a sellable business. How are you going to get to the point where when you get to due diligence, and you might say, A, I never want to sell the business. Well, you'd be surprised. And number two is you might say, well, there's not too much to my business, whatever. But when you get to the point of due diligence, they're going to they're going to be like, well, you have a board? Did you have board meetings? Well, where are the board minutes? And when did you deal with A, B, C, D? Because it's in your bylaws that's what you're supposed to do. Oh, we didn't do that. Well, what happens is the price goes down from 2 million, say, I'm talking about a not very small, but that
Yeah.
if it's some going in someone's pocket, $2 million is a lot. But then million it's going to go down to a million. Like all those things that you didn't do come back to haunt you when it comes time to sell the business.
I
So
agree. I
go
I
ahead.
think that Your experience being the liaison between the business world and the legal world is incredibly valuable. I imagine that that is mostly based on your own experience in the business world to be able to understand both sides. You understand the legal side and you understand the small business side. You understand how both of those people work, how those people think, the way that they go about and conduct their business. And I would draw some parallels to my industry as well, where often it is beneficial to be the liaison between the technology and the business people, of trying to find someone that knows enough about the technology to be able to break it down in layman's terms for people that don't have any interest or value in learning the technology, but they also understand the practical business use of why we are investing time and money and energy into developing these technology products and what the value is going to bring to your business. So I believe that being able to speak about that full circle is extremely valuable to the people that work for you. But in your own words, what is kind of your superpower? What would you say is the thing that you've done particularly well that has led you to some success as well as helped your clients see success?
Well, I think a lot of it is what you just said. It's navigating. It's no different than a CTO in a certain respect. It's like law can be very intricate, and where it's sure we're trained in logic, some of the figuring out the lay of the land can be illogical, and unless you've had a lot of experience that are trained in it, it's very difficult to apply to your specific situation. And same with like a CTO, it's like the CEO, the team knows what they need, and they know, and the CTO is responsible for taking that goal, taking that mission, seeing the future, and then putting all the pieces together where the team doesn't really need to know everything about the pieces, but needs to know that there's someone that's somewhat of a visionary and not like famous, I don't mean
Right.
visionary that way. I mean visionary and like visioning what your business is, what you what the entrepreneurial goal is, where you see your niche, and then helping you guide with this set of tools that they have to that point. I know that even, and it's been an interesting experience the last few months joining a large law firm because there's a lot of subject matter area experts. Like this afternoon, we have a tax call. Um, but I was able to identify enough about the issue without being a tax subject matter expert, identifying enough about the issue that from what the client was telling me, this is the issue that the client has. And the client wants to potentially sell the business. We even have a term sheet, but there's so many tax considerations that it might be better to do B or C. I'd put you all to sleep if I told you what the options were. But the point being, and it's like nothing even as a generalist that I would ever think about, but I knew enough about the that every time someone talks to me, it's like I'm thinking, all right, is there a tax issue here? So it's really like, but that tax person would not necessarily be that kind of CTO role or kind of like where I sit. So if I have superpowers, it really is because of my experience in business and knowing, and at the M&A table, knowing what the business needs, I can really kind of speak an entrepreneurial language and then take that and provide the most cost effective because I'm very conscious still, even though I'm now an attorney, I'm very conscious about cost. Doing it on the skinny, but covering all the bases to make sure that the business is covered. And as AI comes into play, it's becoming increasingly important to not over rely on that when you're making your legal or any, I would argue, any kind of business decision. It can be kind of a false crutch, right?
I can agree. Yeah, it will.
So it's like,
It assumes too many things.
yeah, like so I'm looking at I had another client a few weeks ago that did all their term sheets on AI, and I was like looking at it, and I'm like, this doesn't even come close to being an adequate explanation of what security, number one, what securities laws want, or if it's VC or something, what VC would be looking for. So I agree that, and so I think in this day and age, AI is amazing. Like I certainly use it, but it's amazing to get you kind of like into to get some background information, and maybe I certainly can work faster and cheaper because of AI. but it's not a substitute for strategy.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
everything that you should be hiring experts for, besides maybe, you need someone um, to do the molding or something if you have
Right.
a helmet company or something. But the should be a strategist that is providing a little strategic insight to your big picture, which should be the C team, um, big picture of, but you need strategy, go-to-market strategy. You need branding strategy. We all know. You can go
Sure.
on and on and on, all the strategy you need. So you take little pieces from those subject matter experts, rely on things like AI to give you, the basic ideas. I love when a client comes and has their thoughts out because it used to be that they'd have to write a whole business plan.
Right.
That's a tough thing to do, and most people don't do it. So at least, you're using to have it's letting people get their thoughts together and providing some framework or background to do it. But that's really strategy. It's really everything in I'd call it consulting. Is what can I understand the essence of what the entrepreneur is looking for? Can I get them, even if they're not interested at the time? It could be 15 years down the line. Can I get them closer to a sellable business where the exit's going to be maximized? And what issues are we going to see in the interim? It could be employment, could be every business has its own issues. Lately, we've been seeing a lot of international issues because number one, our policies have been different. Like our trade policies have changed a little bit, and so that is freaking a lot of foreign suppliers out. Um, and so we've been seeing issues where like the changing um, trade climate is affecting entrepreneurs, and they're not going to know that until they don't get, either there's a seizure or they don't get the parts that they thought they get, or they're having to go to alternative markets where the price is like twice as much. And so we're seeing like a whole bunch and that just kind of cycles. It's probably not the first time, and it won't be the last. It's every time that there's a new trade policy. So we're seeing somebody has to be on top of that and help you guide through it so you're not paying on your margins don't go down substantially. And so there's just a whole bunch of things. And that's why I'm really liking as much as I'd rather be sitting in Tahiti or something. But as much as what I really like about my move, because I was very nervous about it because I had my own gig, and anyone that's thinking about selling or doing something and going to a larger enterprise will call me because there's pluses and minuses, et cetera, so we all know. But one thing I have is like I can vision and then and I have management background. So between that, I can really find a really cost-effective, good solution and I'll manage it because I want to be my client's general counsel. I want to be a partner at the table. But you don't need me at every meeting. You don't need me hardly at any.
Right.
But the whole concept of, and I think that's important in business, really, no matter who you are, like no matter what you're doing, consulting or being on the team or whatever, you want to have a strategic fit and really feel like that you can help the business and really fit in where you feel um, you belong. Um, and I know I'm rambling a little bit, but one thing I've also noticed is, look, if everyone I hope I've sold needs some kind of legal help, and you should be proactive. The third thing is kind of like the personality fit, um, that there's a lot of different counsel out there, and there's a lot of no different than CPAs. Some CPAs you talk to, you're like, wow, do they have a life? Like, what is this what they do on the weekend and like on the holidays, and this is it? Like, because they really have no big picture. And it's just, they're looking at, it's a very hard job to be, but they're looking at numbers all the time. And that's all you talk to them about. But some are like much more kind of asking about your business, asking about how they fit. And that's a kind of a personality thing in a way. I'd argue that you want one that's a little more holistic. And the same with attorneys. It's not like I have a personality where I ask a lot of questions um, but some of my clients are like, and they get used to me. But they're like, I didn't call to ask you to get you to understand my business plan. They just want me to do a specific task. And so you have to look for personality and philosophy of counsel, just like you would hit in anything else. Because having worked with so many attorneys and business people, we're all vastly different in our approach and what we think of when we're doing our work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, at least from my interactions from you, I think it seems like you're a very likable guy. Um,
I like to think
I
so.
think the
Not everyone thinks so.
personality. No,
Yeah.
and the same goes for me. I'm sure there are people that I rub the wrong way too, but for the most part, I think that we're pretty, pretty palatable people. Something that I think is interesting about the personality fit kind of obstacle is that it's not always, maybe sometimes personality is not the right word for those things. There there is a meshing point between the service that you provide in the small business world, because the way that I see this is that a lot of people, when they enter the small business world, do so without legal consultation. They formulate an LLC, they decide what they're going to do, and they go at it and they see what happens. And then legal support is usually referenced to, I'm in trouble, I've done something wrong, or I need to, maybe I've accumulated more assets and I need to find ways to protect myself, or I have questions about insurance or a very unique situation that has happened to me. And I think that the perception should be changed a little bit differently. I think that a lot of that legal help should be done proactively. You should protect yourself and establish those systems and processes early enough to protect yourself, as well as to be able to gauge your success and interactions with your clients and interactions with your employees. Like, there's a lot of establishing a baseline that is very important that I think a lot of people neglect. I know it seems like you guys work with people that are kind of further down the road that have maybe applied some pressure to certain areas of their business and found some shortcomings, and now they're consulting you guys to be able to rectify some of those things and establish stronger practices in their business. But what would you say for people that are just starting out? Maybe their only interaction from the legal side of small business is setting up an LLC with LegalZoom.
Yeah.
I find that to be more common than ever, but I also find it to be something that ends up costing people in the long run, especially, depending on kind of what industry that you're in. But what would you say to those people that are smaller, newer? Maybe they're in the
Yeah.
startup space, or maybe they're pre-revenue, or maybe there's, and I think that there are a lot of value in investing in some legal consultation like you guys provide. So what would you say to those people?
It's an excellent question. So first, a lot of my clients are very early stage because a big subspecialty that I have is trademark.
Oh, nice.
So trademark is protecting brand, and unless you have, the new cure for cancer or something, then we don't need to talk about trademark because who cares what it's the invention of the century, right? But anywhere else, brand is everything. So we offer I always started my practice, since I started my practice, I've offered a very low cost, highly effective, meaning it's done right, a trademark package. So my philosophy on early stage business is number one, again, find someone that some attorneys are going to frankly blow you off. And so that's not who you want to work with. And my suggestion, I don't want to disparage any legal filing system, but that's a disaster. And I can show you, call me, I'll tell you stories, or I'll just send you cases of how that screwed up everything if you just go through a filing service. So the first thing that you really want to look at is what ultimately are you looking, where will you be in 5 years? Where do you think you'll be? And then that will help on your choice of entity question. And that's really, in my belief, is getting the right choice of entity and a trademark. And you're talking about maybe all in all a $3,000 budget, like all in, can pay it off in time. And then then if it were me, call me anytime. Like, I want to hear from you. I carve out almost 2 hours of my day every day to just touch base with my early base clients because I want them to succeed. And so but you're right. That's all you need at the very beginning. is a good foundation. It's a kind of like almost, I look at it like, look, you're say you're starting a company and you need security. Maybe it's an AI company or something. You need some kind of security. You don't need the same security that a skyscraper needs. You need, or like a $50 million property. You need like a little, but you need security. And so but you don't want to build. Maybe someday that will be a skyscraper. So you want to build a little wall of protection, meaning entity protection, legal protection, tax protection, all that. That's a tiny wall at the beginning. It should be. It shouldn't be bigger than the play. And if the play is zero revenue, pre-revenue, no, there's not. Unless you have investors or something, then we have to have a different discussion. It should be a very small legal budget. And then, but your attorney should be educating you on when the next step is. And the next step is going to be when you get out of pre-revenue and you have pricing issues, or you're selling internationally, or your brand becomes recognized internationally. There's so many things that can happen. But with that foundation, it's easy to handle. Without that foundation, or we're looking at LegalZoom bylaws, we're going to have to redo it because that didn't contemplate any of the things that a human mind that's trained in it would know from seeing things go the good, the bad, the ugly when it comes to governance.
Yes.
So really that's it. I agree with you 100%. But you also don't want, I think my clients are partially my clients because they hate the idea that you're going to call the attorney and you're going to get a bill like automatically. And my philosophy is, yeah, you're going to get a bill if we're doing work, and I'm probably going to try and quote that out before you get the bill, but not always because it's an emergency or like it's litigation or something. Well, I can't. Like I have no idea what's going to happen. But without that, it's pretty easy to forecast what the issues are, and I need to be able to let my clients know that I want to communicate with them and know what's going on. And so I always like discourage me and my team do not bill for like touch base. We really discourage that kind of work because you want to build a relationship, and if we're touching base, it's the same as calling, to find out if I'm calling you to find out how your project's going or something. It's not substantive work.
Right.
It's part of what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah,
And so
and you don't want to be billing people $50 for a text message.
I hate that.
Yeah, it's absurd.
I mean,
it's
it
very
bothers
frequent.
me. Like I hate that.
Yeah, it's
And
very
my
frequent
accountant
too.
doesn't do that to me, but I've had accountants, I've had other professionals do it. You pay, you're like, whatever. But I usually am like, it leaves a bitter taste in my mouth. And then I, go and find someone else. And then the third thing, whoever you work with, if you ever have that issue, then I think it's important that you talk to them. Like,
I agree.
it's like, and I'm not here to like ruin attorneys' business plans, but it's like, how can you have a relationship when you think like you're sitting on the phone? And part of it is also I have to understand my clients as people. Like, so I want to know about like, do they just have a baby? How's their family? Are there any stressors going on in their lives that I have to know about? Because that's going to affect their decision making. And I'm a relationship person. It's no fun just to practice law. Like it's interesting enough. I mean, the law's interesting to me, but in and of itself, it's pretty dry. It's taking
Sure.
what a client situation is and using these, what I consider tools, to get them the best possible outcome. And my favorite thing is when I took a client from the beginning and took them all the way. Like, doesn't happen every day, but
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, but you're with that journey all the way to
Oh my
exit or
God, you
to
should see it.
yeah, it's
And
really
change
cool.
lives. Yeah, really
I
cool.
get a very small piece. I've had some clients that were baby clients when they became my clients in the processing world, and I've seen them go like multiple locations, start the franchising, build software to reinforce their friend. Like I've been through some that have really matured, and it is incredibly gratifying just from like the little tiny piece that I do. So I can only imagine like being on the strategy side, how rewarding that is. But if we have impulsed some people here today to discuss whether they need some legal consultation, I would imagine most of those people do. How do they find you? How do they get in contact with you?
Sure. So there's many ways, but the I have a newsletter and profile on LinkedIn. So it's Stephen Weigler, Weigler, and the name of my I kind of consolidated my thoughts into something called the Empathetic Attorney is the name of the blog, and I blog every 2 weeks on that. The second is just Weigler, Weigler, at Buchalter. That's hard to spell it, but Buchalter.com. And you can call any office. I'm located in Denver, but my team is all over, and you can make an appointment with me. And then I'll give you my cell phone, 720-480-8204. We'll just schedule some time so I can get to know you, and you can get to know me and my services. And again, that's all complimentary. I'm glad to answer any questions that anyone has. They can email me, call me, etc. If I can't answer it, because again, it might be a specialized question, I will find somebody that can in my firm, or it's a big firm, but outside the firm too, there's sometimes some resources, or it might be jurisdictional.
Sure. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Those resources are invaluable to the people that try to, or that decide to utilize them. I genuinely believe, speaking to the audience here, that you and your small business, if you haven't built a relationship with an attorney yet, you need to now. You needed to yesterday. It's not an if, but a when. You're going to have legal questions, whether it's branding questions, like there are good questions. There are times where good things are happening to you, where you interact with your attorney, and it is like non-negotiable. You have to have those people in your corner to help you navigate some of the things that I myself am not qualified for. Most business owners are not qualified for. Like you have to have experts in those fields, and that probably, it goes for a lot of different areas of your business, but I think that this one is really the hardest one to replace. This is one of those things where you cannot learn some of the things that your legal guidance is going to be able to point you in the right direction on just by experience and time in your industry. It just doesn't happen. You don't spend enough time learning the rules and regulations that surround the business world to navigate those things appropriately. So I encourage you guys, take advantage of that consultation, see where you are, see what you need help with. If it costs some money, pay the money, because I promise it's less expensive to do those things now than it will be later in time and effort and energy and monetarily and all of those things. Like letting those things fester makes this conversation and this experience worse later. So I encourage you all to burn the ship. You would be very surprised what you're capable of in your own world, especially when you surround yourself with experts that are willing to help you get to the next step. So until next time, burn the ship. Please like and subscribe, and thank you for listening.
A pleasure.